Welcome to Between Film. What is Between Film, you may ask? It's a meta-spiritual and theopoetic approach to experiencing film or cinema, not as entertainment alone, but as sacred space of reflection, healing, and meaning-making. It treats film as a dialogue between self, spirit, and story, where viewers actively interpret symbols, emotions, and existential questions. Cinema is viewed as a modern sacred text, a vessel for mystery, identity, trauma, redemption, and even wonder. Film holds mirrors and portals into deeper self-reflection and spirituality, revealing how all things are interconnected and how God, divinity, may be encountered beyond institutional religion. Between Film is for healing from religious trauma, questioning colonized religion, searching for God beyond institutional boundaries, and seeking new paths of meaning, identity, and self-understanding. Our core approach in Between Film, it uses film studies, depth psychology or Jungian psychology, Theopoetics, theology, and ontology, and it explores themes like trauma, identity, sin, redemption, sacredness, and transcendence. Film engagement happens through Paulo Freire's inspired approach of dialogue, a co-creative act rooted in love, humility, vulnerability, and transformation. Participants actively shape meaning together rather than being told what to think. Between Film views people and film as living sacred texts, not fixed doctrine. Meaning arises in relationship through stories, symbols, and shared interpretation, awakening self-awareness and connection. By watching films, experiencing films, it becomes more like a ritual. Cinema becomes a safe space to explore wounds, beliefs, and identity without shame or dogma. It is a pathway toward reclamation of self and spiritual autonomy. This Between Film presentation invites participants into a sacred cinematic journey through The Prince of Egypt, 1998. DreamWorks' animated retelling of the Book of Exodus. Beyond its biblical narrative, the film becomes a mirror reflecting our personal and collective calls towards liberation, identity, and becoming. Through Jungian psychology, creative reflection, and theopoetic practice, we engage the film as living text, a sacred story retracted from modern imagination. Here, Moses is not only prophet, but pilgrim. Exodus is not only history, but metaphor. And God is not only commanding, but calling. Our aim is to explore how the archetype of Exodus, the journey from bondage into becoming, continues to shape our understanding of self, spirit, and community today. What awakens us to our truest name? How do we respond to the call to set others free? What happens when encounter with the sacred disrupts empire? How does the journey towards freedom carry both suffering and rebirth? Who are we on the other side of the Red Sea, theopoetically? Act 1. Who am I? In this pivotal moment, the prince's illusion of belonging collapses. Moses confronts the truth of his origins, that he is both Egyptian and Hebrew, both beneficiary of empire and child of the enslaved. The revelation fractures his identity and propels him out of Pharaoh's house and into exile. Theopoetically, let's focus for a moment on a few concepts here. The moment of unmasking, when identity fractures and truth reveals itself. Also, the internal exodus, when privilege becomes discomfort and awakening becomes exile, as well as calling begins not with certainty, but with disorientation. Some questions for reflection. What does it mean to be called out of comfort, privilege, or inherited safety? Where in your life are you being asked to see beyond a received identity? And finally, what parts of yourself remain enslaved to empire or Pharaoh's thinking? Perhaps the first liberation is not from Pharaoh, but from the illusion that Pharaoh's palace is home. Act 2. Who is God? Moses encounters the divine not in palace or temple, but in wilderness and flame. God reveals God's self as a presence that refuses containment, holy, dangerous, and alive. This revelation unsettles both Moses and empire itself. Theopoetically, encountering God beyond systems of control, divine power as invitation rather than domination. And finally, the sacred as untamed, calling us into responsibility rather than obedience alone. Here are some reflective questions. What happens when God refuses to fit within your theology or institution? How does revelation confront political, personal, or spiritual empire? Where is your burning bush calling you towards transformation? Remove your sandals, for where you stand is holy ground, even if it burns. Act 3. What is liberation? The waters part, a cinematic act of cosmic defiance, yet liberation is not triumphant ease. The people cross trembling, carrying generations of trauma, grief, and fear. Empire is left behind, but its imprint remains within. Theopoetically, liberation as process rather than destination. Freedom as collective act rather than we cross together or not at all. Theopoetically, the Red Sea as passage through trauma, death, and rebirth held together. What does it mean to be freed from a system that still lives inside you? How do we carry trauma through the waters of liberation without denying it? Who are you becoming on the other side? Freedom is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of a new becoming. And finally, in our closing thoughts, every generation must cross its own Red Sea. Every self must leave a Pharaoh behind. The Prince of Egypt is not simply the story of Moses, it is the story of all of us. Of how we awaken, flee, wrestle, return, and become. Between Film invites you to engage this sacred narrative, not as doctrine, but as theopoetry, a living metaphor that continues to call us toward the unknown land of liberation.
Let us give thanks for this bountiful food. And let us also give thanks for the presence of this brave young man whom we honor here tonight.
Please, sir, I wish you wouldn't. I've done nothing in my life worth honoring.
First you, rescue Zipporah from Egypt, then you defend my younger daughters from brigands. You think that is nothing? It seems you do not know what is worthy of honor.
A single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shine, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design. And the stone that sits on the very top of the mountain's mighty face, does it think it's more important than the stones that form the base? So how can you see what your life is worth, or where your value lies? You can never see through the eyes of man. You must look at your life. Look at your life through heaven's eyes.
Dance with me.
No, I don't know how.
A lake of gold in the desert sand is less than a cool, fresh spring. And to one lost sheep, a shepherd boy is greater than the richest king. If a man lose everything he owns, has he truly lost his worth? Or is it the beginning of a new and brighter birth? So how do you measure the worth of a man in wealth or strength or size? In how much he gained or how much he gave? The answer will come. The answer will come to him who tries to look at his life through heaven's eyes. And that's why we share all we have with you, though there's little to be found. When all you've got is nothing, there's a lot to go around. No life can escape being blown about by the winds of change and chance. And though you never know all the steps,
Dance with me.
you must learn to join the dance. You must learn to join the dance. What a man is worth by what he builds or buys. You can never see with your eyes on earth. Look through heaven's eyes. Look at your life. Look at your life. Look at your life.